Okay, welcome to the deep dive. We're jumping right into the source material you've shared today. We're going to be looking closely at some everyday habits that this material suggests can quietly, kind of consistently impact your financial health.
That's right. And our mission really for this deep dive is to unpack these insights that are presented, to understand the why behind them, and pull out the most important takeaways specifically for you listening.
Exactly. The focus is on something the sources call 5 sneaky habits draining your wealth. And that word sneaky is key, isn't it? Because they aren't like obvious financial train wrecks.
No, not at all. They're subtle behaviors, small leaks, you could say. Things that can erode your resources over time without you maybe even noticing. No big alarms going off.
Right. And looking closely where our money actually goes, well, it can feel a bit maybe revealing or uncomfortable.
It definitely can. But gaining that kind of clarity, even if it touches on some uncomfortable truths, it's really the necessary first step, towards making intentional choices and building genuine financial freedom. So let's dig in.
All right, let's do it. So the first habit highlighted in the source material. It's often called something like death by subscription. This is the idea that, we sign up for all these services, streaming, apps, maybe cloud storage, online courses, meal kits.
Oh, yeah, all of those things.
And often they're just a few dollars a month each, right? So individually, they seem pretty insignificant.
But what's really sneaky here, and the source points this out, is the psychology behind it. Companies, they design these models around convenience. That set it and forget it's principle.
Totally.
You might genuinely need it when you first sign up, put your card details in, and then maybe your usage fades. But that charge, that recurring charge, it just keeps going silently.
Right. And the source mentions how quickly these can add up. Like people suddenly realizing they're spending $200, $300.
Even $400 a month, the material suggests, on services they barely even touch anymore.
Wow, okay, $400. When you put it like that, suddenly it's not insignificant at all.
Exactly. And that's where the source suggests taking some, active steps. One is just a simple subscription audit. Actually, go through your bank statements, maybe your App Store subscriptions.
Just list everything out.
Yeah, literally list everything you're paying for regularly. And then the crucial follow-up is be ruthless. Cancel anything you're not actively using and genuinely getting value from. It sounds basic, but apparently very effective.
Makes sense.
The material even mentions some tools that can help with this, like specific apps designed to find those forgotten subscriptions.
Oh, right. Some can even help you cancel them or negotiate bills down. I think I saw that.
Exactly. It's really about identifying those quiet drains and just turning off the tap.
That idea of identifying and shutting off the quiet drains, it actually connects really well to the second point. Because if you're finding it hard to keep track of even small expenses like subscriptions, it might be because of this next sneaky habit the source identifies. Impulse spending.
Ah, yes, the quick buys.
We've all been there, right? That quick browse online that wasn't supposed to lead anywhere.
Or grabbing something shiny right there at the checkout line. Happens all the time.
And the source kind of delves into the why here. It states a bit of a hard truth, maybe.
Which is?
That impulse spending is often triggered by emotion. Boredom, stress, maybe just needing that little hit of instant gratification.
Right. But as I point out, using retail therapy to, say, solve financial stress, well, it often just creates more financial stress in the long run.
It's a cycle.
It is. Those, it's just one thing purchases, when you multiply them over days and weeks, they really add up. The emotional hit is pretty fleeting, but the dent in your wallet, that's real.
Right, that little dopamine hit in the moment versus the cumulative financial reality later on. So what does the source suggest? How do you combat this?
They offer a couple of really practical behavioral tactics, things you can actually do. One is the 24-hour rule. Heard of this?
Yeah, I think so. If you see something you want to buy impulsively, especially online.
Exactly. Put it in the cart or on a wish list, but force yourself to wait a full 24 hours before you actually click buy.
Okay.
This gives that initial impulse, that emotional urge, time to fade. And it allows for a more, rational decision.
I've actually found that works surprisingly well for me. You come back the next day and sometimes you're like, what was I even thinking?
Exactly. See, it works. Another simple trick from the material, maybe even simpler. Make it slightly inconvenient for yourself.
How so?
Delete your saved payment information from your favorite online shopping sites.
Ah, interesting.
Just adding that tiny extra step of having to get up, find your wallet, type in the card details, it creates a pause. A friction point. It makes you reconsider if the purchase is truly necessary or if it's just, an impulse. It kind of leverages our own laziness, but in a good way.
I like that. Using laziness for good. Okay, so we've covered the small leaks from subscriptions and those spontaneous buys from impulse spending.
Yeah.
But it seems like it would be hard to get a real handle on either of those if you don't have a bigger picture view.
Absolutely. Which leads us nicely into the third sneaky habit the source talks about.
Which is?
Avoiding budgeting because it feels restrictive.
The B word, budget. Yeah, I can see why people avoid it. It sounds like homework or like putting yourself in a financial straitjacket.
It does have that reputation. And the source is actually quite empathetic about that. It acknowledges that the word budget can sound limiting. But they argue pretty strongly that avoiding budgeting is kind of like driving without a map. You're definitely moving, your money is going places, but you're not deliberately guiding it towards where you want it to go, your desired destination. You're just reacting.
So they frame it differently, not as restriction, but empowerment.
Exactly. That's the word they use, empowerment. It's about giving every single dollar a job or a purpose. So instead of feeling confined, it's actually about intentionally directing your money so it aligns with your actual goals.
Whether that's saving or investing or, even spending on the things you truly value.
Precisely. They really highlight this point. Financial freedom isn't really about having unlimited money. For most people, it's not realistic. It's much more about having control and, importantly, clarity over the money you do have.
Makes sense. And I think they mentioned tools, like apps.
Yeah, things like budgeting apps are mentioned as ways to make the tracking part easier, less daunting, to shift the focus from, drudgery to clarity and control.
Okay, so managing the small stuff, getting the big picture with a budget. The fourth sneaky habit seems to build on this idea of how we think about money. Specifically, only thinking in terms of monthly payments.
Oh, this is a big one and really common, especially with larger purchases, cars, furniture, maybe financing electronics. We tend to ask ourselves, can I afford the, say, $399 per month?
Right. That's the main question.
But what the source pinpoints as the real danger here is that this mindset completely masks, or at least de-emphasizes, the total cost and the long-term implications.
Can you give an example?
Sure. That car. It isn't just $399 a month. It's potentially a $30,000 plus commitment when you factor in the loan principal, all the interest over years.
Plus insurance, maintenance.
Exactly. Insurance, maintenance, gas, depreciation. It all adds up over the, say, 5 or 6 years you have the loan or the car. Focusing only on that monthly payment really obscures the true scale of the financial obligation you're taking on.
It feels like a classic framing effect. That smaller monthly number feels way less scary, more manageable than the big total sum.
Absolutely. And companies, let's be honest, they know this. They leverage it. Their advertising often leads with that low monthly payment. It's designed to hook you.
So what's the suggested shift in thinking?
The material suggests training yourself to always ask, okay, what is the total cost of this thing? Over its expected life or over the full loan term?
Got it. Total cost perspective.
Yes. This perspective forces you to evaluate if the overall cost, the big number, actually aligns with your financial priorities and goals, not just whether the monthly bite feels manageable today.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so we've gone through 4 habits: subscriptions, impulse buys, avoiding budgets, and the monthly payment trap. The final point raised by the source material. It feels, maybe the most challenging to address personally.
It can be, yeah.
But they present it as a really critical factor.
Yeah.
The influence of your social circle on financial mindset.
This one's about who you hang out with. The core idea is that the people you spend the most time with, they subtly, or maybe sometimes not so subtly, influence your attitudes and behaviors around money.
They mentioned that saying, right? You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Exactly. They reference that idea.
Yeah.
And think about it. If your friends, your closest circle, tend to normalize or even encourage habits like, say, chronic debt or always living paycheck to paycheck.
Or constant impulse splurges.
Right. Or maybe just completely avoiding any kind of financial planning conversation. It can be incredibly difficult for you to chart a different course. Their norms, their habits kind of become your subconscious baseline. It's just what seems normal.
Now, this isn't about judging your friends, is it? Or abandoning people you care about. The source was careful about that, I remember.
Very careful. No, it's absolutely not about judgment. It's more about recognition. Recognizing that exposure to different financial mindsets is actually really powerful.
Okay, so it's about intentionality then.
Yes, I think that's a good word for it. Intentionality. If you feel like your immediate circle's financial habits might be, for sort of, limiting your own growth, the material suggests actively seeking out different perspectives. It doesn't mean ditching your friends.
So what could that look like?
Well, it could mean reading books on finance, listening to podcasts like this one, maybe joining online communities focused on financial wellness, or finding a mentor perhaps, or even just consciously having conversations with people you know who seem to have different financial habits and goals than your current circle.
It's about widening your view.
Exactly. Just expanding your frame of reference, seeing what else is possible, what other approaches exist.
It really highlights how, financial health isn't just about numbers and spreadsheets at the end of the day.
Not at all.
It's deeply interconnected with our environment, our relationships, our psychology.
It's a compelling point they make. Money carries a powerful energy, doesn't it? And who you surround yourself with can either reinforce habits that, drain that energy, or it can expose you to habits that help it grow and work for you.
Okay, that's a lot to think about. So let's just quickly recap those 5 sneaky habits we pulled from the source material. First, there's the quiet drain of accumulating subscriptions. Death by 1,000 cuts, almost.
Then the emotional trap of impulse spending, those unplanned purchases adding up.
Third, avoiding budgeting, which kind of leaves your money directionless, just reacting.
Fourth, that limited perspective of only thinking in monthly payments, masking the true total cost.
And finally, the significant and often overlooked influence of your social circle's financial mindset on your own habits.
And the key insight, just to underscore it again, as this source really emphasizes, is their sneaky nature. Individually, they often seem small, harmless even, manageable.
Right.
But their cumulative effect over time, that's the problem. It's like a slow leak that can significantly undermine your financial well-being without some big, obvious crisis point. It really is death by 1,000 small decisions.
So just recognizing these habits in your own life, that really feels like the most important first step towards gaining some control back. It shifts you from being, a passive passenger with your money to being an active driver of your financial future.
Well said. And as the source emphasizes, even small, truly intentional changes in these areas, they can compound. They can lead to significant positive results over time. Small hinges swing big doors.
Okay, so maybe a final thought for you listening.
Yeah, take a moment maybe after this to reflect. Which of these sneaky habits, if any, might be showing up most frequently in your life right now?
Perhaps consider that final point about your social circle too. That idea that just exposing yourself to different financial perspectives, different conversations, could actually profoundly change your own approach and possibilities.
So maybe ask yourself, what is one small, single step? Something realistic you could take, maybe this week, based on what we've discussed. Just one step to start addressing one of these sneaky habits.